In the wild, there are no rules. No compassion. No second chances. Only the survivor remains. Welcome to WildVerse, where we venture together into the most sublime mysteries of the natural world. "40 days without a single drop of rain. The Mozambican earth has fractured into deep, jagged veins, as though the continent itself is breaking apart from within. Across a 10-mile radius, only a single waterhole remains the final, vital oasis amidst a dying grassland. Right at the center of this pool, a hippopotamus emerges from the thick mud, the absolute master of this watery domain. Unlike most large mammals on the savanna, the hippopotamus does not merely visit the waterhole to drink. The hippopotamus lives here. This pool is its sanctuary. Yet, the hippopotamus does not merely inhabit the pool. The hippopotamus owns it, and it has a distinct way of declaring its sovereignty. The dominant bull spins his tail in rapid circles, spraying dung across the water and onto the parched banks. A pungent, suffocating stench diffuses into the searing air. It is a territorial manifesto, a chemical broadcast, signaling to every creature within hundreds of yards, this water is claimed. And in the heart of the dry season, when all paths lead to this very spot, that warning is no empty threat. Upon this desolate Mozambican landscape, water dictates who will live and who must die. And the primary law of the waterhole is remarkably simple. Every species requires water, but not every species is permitted to drink. Less than a mile from the pool, a herd of waterbucks stands huddled beneath the sparse shade of a tree. They have not drank since yesterday. The waterbuck is a species entirely dependent on water. Unlike wildebeests or zebras that can trek hundreds of miles in search of fresh pastures, a waterbuck never ventures more than 1 to 2 miles away from a permanent aquatic source. This is simultaneously their greatest advantage and their ultimate sentence. During the wet season, this dependency poses no threat. But when the drought tightens its grip and all peripheral water sources vanish, the waterbucks are left with no choice but to visit the final pool. The dominant bull leading the herd weighs nearly 500 pounds. Upon his head, a pair of ridged, sweeping horns curve backward, measuring nearly 40 inches, the ultimate defensive weapon, though one reserved exclusively for males. Viewed from behind, a prominent white elliptical ring marks the waterbuck's rump, the signature identification mark of the species. Yet, the waterbuck possesses a shield that few other prey animals can boast. Their coarse coat is saturated with a special oily secretion emitting a powerful musky odor. That scent is so pungent that even lions will occasionally pass them by, unless driven by absolute starvation. However, not all predators are deterred by this musky aroma. And crucially, this olfactory defense holds no power beneath the surface of the water. As the herd advances to the edge of the pool, every single step is a calculated gamble between life and death. Lowering one's head to drink means forfeiting all vision. Losing vision means losing 3 vital seconds of reaction time. And 3 seconds on the Mozambican savanna is the exact distance between life and death. The dominant bull steps forward first. He lowers his head to drink. Yet, beneath that deceptive, glassy surface, something is watching. Two golden eyes rise silently above the mud, less than 15 yards from the unsuspecting herd. It is the cruelest paradox of the dry season. Water sustains the waterbuck's life each day, yet it is this very water that draws them into the jaws of their enemy. A figure is watching from the edge of the waterhole. A young waterbuck is submerged close to a tree trunk in the middle of the waterhole. But then, the youngster's inexperience comes at a cost. It stands up. The lead lioness reacts instantly. She explodes into speed, charging straight down into the waterhole. The waterbuck tries to flee, but the rising water completely neutralizes its speed. The lioness quickly closes the gap and brings down her prey. However, the deep water makes finishing the kill extremely difficult. To deliver the final blow, the lioness is forced to pin the youngster down with all her strength, painstakingly dragging it back toward the shallows. On the bank, the sub-adult lions remain hesitant, standing several dozen feet from the water's edge. They patiently wait for the lioness to haul her prize onto dry ground. The entire pride rushes into the shallows, creating a chaotic scramble right over the carcass of the waterbuck. Yet, on this savanna, the largest creatures are not necessarily the most formidable. There exist far smaller warriors, armed with weapons, written deep within their very molecules. The true testament of power on the Mozambican plains lies beyond mere claws in a microscopic realm where a chemical warfare plays out beneath every footstep. A few hundred yards from the pool, atop an exposed mound amidst the dry grass. A yellow mongoose stands erect on its hind legs, scanning the terrain. The mongoose is not large. A fully grown adult weighs less than 2 pounds. Yet, what sets the mongoose apart is not its physical stature, but rather the quarry it dares to hunt. The cobra, a reptile armed with a neurotoxic venom potent enough to kill a human adult within a matter of hours. And the mongoose does not avoid them. The mongoose actively seeks them out. The cobra rears up, flaring its hood in a definitive defensive posture, a clear signal that approach means death. But the mongoose refuses to retreat. It begins to taunt the snake darting left, then abruptly shifting right, weaving in a relentless rhythm. The mongoose's gaze never wavers from the cobra's head for a single fraction of a second. This is not reckless bravery. This is a masterclass in evasion. The cobra strikes. The mongoose leaps aside, its fur bristling, and immediately launches a counterstrike. The mongoose's razor-sharp teeth sink precisely into the back of the cobra's neck, its solitary vulnerability. The venom is delivered, yet it finds no purchase. This is not merely an ability to endure the toxic payload. This is a mechanism of molecular blockade. Evolution has rewritten the genetic code at the amino acid level, transforming the receptor into something the neurotoxin can no longer recognize. And what is even more astonishing, every mongoose lineage, the yellow mongoose, the dwarf mongoose, the Indian mongoose, possesses this identical capacity. A dynasty of venom assassins, hardwired into their genes. The mongoose finishes consuming the cobra, licks its muzzle, and casually slips back along the grass line as if nothing had transpired. On the Mozambican savanna, this is merely an ordinary lunch. Yet, the mongoose is not the sole creature to crack the molecular code of venom on this landscape. Not far away, another creature approaches a deadly serpent with an almost unbelievable air of nonchalance. The honey badger appears, moving with an innate composure and a legendary, fearless audacity. A mature honey badger ambles slowly along, its nose pressed close to the parched earth. It detects a puff adder, coiled beneath a tuft of dry grass. It confronts the puff adder directly, a reptile possessing a terrifyingly destructive, tissue-destroying cytotoxin. Most living things flee from it. The honey badger marches straight in, its demeanor as casual as if it were merely seeking a routine meal. There is no defensive posturing, no elaborate taunting. It simply steps forward and bites. This absolute nonchalance is no suicidal tendency. It is safeguarded by two distinct layers of defense that evolution has spent millions of years perfecting. Its skin, measuring nearly 1/4 of an inch thick, functions as a formidable built-in suit of physical armor. An exceptionally loose subcutaneous tissue structure allows the badger to literally twist inside its own skin to counterattack even while firmly gripped by an adversary. At the molecular level, its neurological receptors carry a precise mutation at position 187. The amino acid arginine creates an electrostatic repulsion that prevents the snake's venom from binding to the target cells. Two distinct species, two entirely separate evolutionary paths. The exact same location on the protein chain, the identical lock yet unlocked by a different key. This is a profound demonstration of convergent evolution. When nature confronts the exact same problem, it arrives at a remarkably similar answer, though via its own distinct path. Even when subjected to a direct envenomation, the honey badger merely shakes its head and indifferently resumes its feast. The honey badger is arguably the most formidable creature on the planet. not by virtue of sheer teeth or claws, but because it simply refuses to back down before any adversary. About half a mile east of the waterhole, a pack of African wild dogs is gathering in a circle on an open clearing. They are not eating, they are not sleeping. African wild dogs possess the most democratic social structure of any carnivore. The pack's target is an impala grazing nearby. The lead dog begins to accelerate, charging straight toward the prey at dizzying speed. When the leader begins to tire, the second dog immediately surges forward to take over and maintain the pressure. The impala runs frantically, but is given not a single second to rest. One by one, each member of the pack takes a turn in the chase, driving the prey to total exhaustion. Finally, the impala collapses entirely under the relentless pressure of the hunters. A hunting success rate of up to 80% makes them the most efficient killers in Africa. In Gorongosa, the return of the wild dogs is a beacon of hope for the ecosystem's recovery. These elite hunters have yet to adapt to enemies lurking beneath the grass. Despite facing the threat of extinction, the wild dogs persist in their daily battle for survival. On the open grassland, a secretary bird strides across the dry grass. Secretary birds walk tirelessly across the ground. This bird stands up to 4 feet tall, with the head of an eagle and legs as long as a crane's. They often stomp hard on bushes to force their prey out into the open. The secretary bird's long legs allow it to walk up to 20 miles a day in search of food. This bird's most fearsome weapon is a thunderbolt kick, delivering force 5 times its own body weight. When confronting venomous snakes, they spread their long wings wide to shield their bodies and distract their opponent. The bird unleashes a lightning-fast kick to the venomous snake's head, dropping it instantly. This brutal hunting behavior makes them the greatest nightmare of reptiles across Africa. After its meal, the secretary bird continues to patrol along the smouldering edges of a nearby bushfire. On the open grassland less than half a mile from the waterhole, a massive wall of mussel is grazing with its head lowered. The white rhinoceros, the second largest land animal on the planet, surpassed only by the elephant. A mature bull weighs nearly 5,000 pounds. The largest individual ever recorded reached nearly 8,000 pounds heavier than a small truck. That wide, flat mouth is designed for grazing close to the ground, unlike the black rhino, whose narrow, pointed lip is built for browsing leaves up high. That small difference creates an enormous ecological impact. Each day, the white rhino consumes hundreds of pounds of grass, trimming the turf extremely short, like a biological lawnmower running 24 hours a day. The ultra-short grass patches created by the white rhino become natural fire breaks for the savanna. Unintentionally, the white rhino becomes a prehistoric firefighter, protecting habitat for countless species. The white rhino does not know it is protecting the entire savanna, but the savanna knows. However, this great architect possesses a pair of eyes with extremely poor vision. It can barely make out any object beyond 30 yards. Its every move depends entirely on its keen sense of smell and sharp hearing. In the distance, a pride of lions is stealthily closing in, targeting a young rhino as their prey. The predators conceal themselves in the tall grass, waiting for the chance to strike from behind. Catching an unfamiliar scent, the bull rhino immediately swings around to face the threat. Without hesitation, it lowers its head and charges straight toward the sound at terrifying speed. The massive bulk bulldozes everything in its path, sending the entire pride of lions scrambling in panic. The lion's intended prey escapes, saved by the ferocious protection of the near-blind giant. Its most powerful weapon is its long keratin horn, rising proudly from its snout. The mighty empire that once shaped the entire savanna is now fading with each final breath. Late in the afternoon, as the sunlight stretches long across the still water, only 2 eyes and 2 nostrils break the surface. A Nile crocodile, 1,650 pounds of muscle, bone and jaw. The hatchlings are beginning to break through their eggshells to enter the world. The moment they emerge, they are extremely vulnerable, an easy, fleeting meal for any hungry predator nearby. To gently collect her tiny offspring, the mother crocodile must use the most lethal jaws on the planet. Even once they are in the water, the mother must stand guard without rest. In this unforgiving wilderness, a mere 1% of crocodile hatchlings survive to adulthood. Lions rule the land, Nile crocodiles rule the water, but spotted hyenas are the true masters of the grey zone between life and death. When the wildebeest calving season begins, the Serengeti grasslands are flooded with vulnerable newborns. Most calves are born within the same narrow window to overwhelm predators by sheer numbers. However, if a mother and calf fall behind, danger will follow immediately. The calves must learn to stand and walk the moment they are born. The hungry eyes of a spotted hyena clan are closing in. But an unexpected turn of events unfolds. The zebras do not panic. They turn around, forming a defensive line to protect their companions. Outnumbered, the hyena clan is forced to retreat. But on the savanna, prey is never in short supply. A new chase begins. Hyenas do not hunt with explosive speed. They hunt with iron will and relentless strides, draining every last ounce of strength from their wretched prey. This time, another wildebeest mother and calf have fallen into the crosshairs. But the hyena's chilling laughter rings out like a death sentence. One by one, the hyenas take turns closing in, using their boundless endurance to drain the very last breath from their wretched prey. When the wildebeest finally buckles, the hunt ends with collective force tearing through every last defense. Unlike lions or crocodiles, hyenas possess a unique chemical weapon system housed within their stomachs and bloodstreams. In a world where venom and pathogens lurk everywhere, hyenas have evolved to become virtually invincible against bacteria. A modern genetic study reveals that the hyena immune system possesses an extraordinarily diverse set of MHC gene complexes for pathogen recognition. This allows them to consume carcasses riddled with anthrax bacteria or botulinum toxin without facing any danger whatsoever. The secret lies in the acid concentration within their stomachs, with a pH so low it can completely dissolve bone and horn within hours. This is not merely digestion, it is a chemical reactor that transforms the most toxic substances on the savanna into pure energy. Just as the mongoose cracks snake venom with protein mutations, hyenas have cracked nature's decomposition code to stand beyond every rule of sanitation. Taxonomically, despite resembling dogs, hyenas actually belong to the cat-like suborder Feliformia, more closely related to mongooses and honey badgers than to wolves. This genetic crossover has produced a hybrid warrior, possessing the endurance of a canine and a bite force of 1,100 psi, rivaling the great cats. With those jaws, they crush the toughest femur bones of wildebeest bones that even the king of beasts must leave behind. Their laughter is a complex language used to coordinate the matriarchal clan during their bloody campaigns. They are the great cleaners, keeping the waterholes free from pathogens that breed in the carcasses left behind during the brutal dry season. Under the scorching Mozambican sun, the last waterhole becomes the fortress of the hippos, where life and death are separated by a single breath. Waterbucks are forced to enter this cruel trap, where every life-saving sip of water is also the path that leads them straight to the jaws of their enemies. Lions assert their dominance on land with supreme patience, waiting for the moment their prey lowers its head to unleash the fatal pounce. A silent chemical war unfolds as mongooses and honey badgers use genetic mutations to crack the venom code of the deadliest snakes. African wild dogs choose the power of democracy, using sneeze votes to run a relentless and disciplined hunting machine. The secretary bird bypasses every molecular rule, using pure physics with a kick faster than the blink of an eye to conquer the empires of venom. From white rhinos shaping the grasslands to Nile crocodiles ruling the depths, Every species keeps the ecosystem balanced on the razor's edge of survival. Spotted hyenas use an immune system that cracks every pathogen and jaws that crush bone and marrow to redefine the boundary between predator and the great scavenger. Gorongosa, rising from the ashes of a devastating civil war, is surging back as a testament to the resilience and indomitable will of nature. In the end, the victor of the savanna is not necessarily the strongest, but the one resilient enough to adapt and endure through the harshest dry seasons. Thank you for joining us on WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless stories waiting to be told. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We'll see you on the next expedition. The queen of the savanna is in no rush. In the world of the apex predator, patience is a far deadlier weapon than speed. A herd of wildebeest trudges into a stretch of tall grass. They must eat even though every instinct screams that behind those towering blades, death may be waiting. The first wildebeest lowers its head. In the instant its muzzle brushes the lower grass, the lioness explodes forward. A detonation of speed tears the quiet morning apart. There are no spectacular leaps into the air, only sheer, absolute panic. Dust erupts. The earth shudders beneath 1,000 hooves, trampling over one another as the vast herd stampedes in blind terror. But the lioness has already chosen her target, one wounded animal, falling out of rhythm. Half a second stumble is all it takes. The hunt ends swiftly, swallowed by a curtain of dust. A lioness can reach 35 miles per hour, but her mass means she can only sustain that burst over short distances. An adult wildebeest can gallop at 50 miles per hour with far superior endurance, but a wounded one cannot. The lioness's success rate hovers around 25%. That means for every 4 lunges, 3 times she must watch, empty-handed, as her quarry vanishes into the distance. This time, she has won. But the lioness does not feast in the open grassland. She clamps her jaws around the prey's neck and hauls the carcass, laboriously, into the shade of an acacia cluster some 50 yards away. Why would a victor retreat so quickly into the shadows? Because at the waterhole not far from here, there dwells a creature that makes even lions tremble. The water parts. A colossal head rises, slowly, deliberately. A bull hippopotamus, 4,000 pounds, jaws that gape to 150 degrees, canines 20 inches long, honed like butcher's knives. The bull roars a deep, guttural blast that shakes the surface of the water and carries for hundreds of yards. This is his territory, and every living thing within that radius knows it. A young hippo drifts too close, the bull charges, jaws yawning wide, teeth splayed like twin sabers. Even lions keep their distance from the water's edge when a hippo is present. A single bite delivers 1,800 psi, more powerful than a tiger's, more devastating than a lion's. The most dangerous large mammal in Africa. They kill approximately 500 people every year, more than lions and leopards combined. And the majority of those attacks occur when boats stray into their river territories. What makes the hippopotamus even more formidable is this: they do not swim. They run along the bottom, each stride heavy yet terrifyingly swift. 19 miles per hour on land. They can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes beneath the surface, more than enough to reach any creature reckless enough to enter their water. Their skin secretes a reddish fluid, often mistakenly called blood sweat. In truth, it is hipposudoric acid, a natural shield against ultraviolet radiation and bacterial infection. Not a single drop of blood. The hippopotamus commands the water. The lion commands the land. But between those two kingdoms, one hunter has chosen a third path, the canopy above. On an acacia branch, 100 yards from the waterhole, a leopard. It has been watching from the start. The lioness's kill, the hippo's roar, the wildebeest herd's eruption. It knows the rules of this waterhole. Never compete with a stronger rival evade, and wait for your moment. The most solitary hunter in Africa. No pride, no prolonged pursuit, pure ambush, and a patience that can stretch on for hours. £125. Yet it possesses an advantage no other predator can match, dragging prey 3 times its own body weight up into the trees. Where lions cannot reach, where hyenas cannot climb, up in the branches, a meal in absolute safety. That is the survival advantage that allows the leopard to endure in a kingdom ruled by far larger beasts. A herd of impala grazes on the open plain, acutely aware that danger lurks at every turn, but life affords no other choice. The leopard slips to the ground, belly pressed to the earth, eyes locked on target. 20 feet, every muscle drawn taut as a bowstring. It strikes the sentinel impala, shrieks an alarm, and the herd detonates for the second time this morning. The leopard seizes a juvenile, hauling it into the canopy in one fluid motion. The lioness eats on the ground, confident within her pride. The leopard eats in the trees, vigilant and utterly alone. Both hunt the same prey, but they inhabit two entirely different worlds. Bite force, 300 psi. Success rate, roughly 17%, the lowest among the great cats. But when the leopard succeeds, its meal is secure on high. The lion wields brute strength. The leopard wields camouflage. But at the water's edge, among the reeds, another hunter deploys the rarest weapon of all patience beyond comprehension. The shoebill stalked 5 feet tall, an 8-foot wingspan, and a bill shaped like an enormous shoe, 9 inches long and sharp as an axe blade. It stands absolutely motionless in the marsh at the waterhole's fringe. Fierce, yellow eyes bore into the water's surface. 30 minutes pass, not a twitch, not a single muscular tremor. Fish glide below. The shoebill strikes its bill, cleaves the water like a hatchet. It clamps a 2-foot lungfish in its vice-like grip, decapitating it before swallowing. Precise, ruthless, and patient to an almost supernatural degree. The IUCN classifies them as vulnerable. Only around 5,000 individuals remain on the entire planet. This bird can stand motionless for over an hour, waiting for precisely the right moment. And what makes the shoebill even more astonishing, they have been documented eating juvenile crocodiles, a predator feeding on a predator at the edge of an African waterhole. Midday. The sun scorches the savanna. The lioness sleeps beneath the acacias, her belly full. The hippo wallows submerged, only its eyes and ears breaking the surface. The leopard sprawls across a branch, its kill safely stashed below. The shoebill stands sentinel in the reeds. At a single waterhole, 5 survival strategies coexist: raw power, territorial dominance, camouflage, infinite patience, and lightning agility. Each species has its way, but all revolve around one thing: water. Yet the supreme predators do not reign only where the sun blazes. Thousands of miles to the north, where temperatures plunge to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, another kingdom endures. A kingdom where cold itself is the most fearsome predator of all. A blizzard tears through the taiga. Wind screams through the bare trunks of Siberian pine, lashing snow against everything in its path. The temperature touches minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Through that white oblivion, 7 silhouettes press forward, a grey wolf pack. The alpha leads, 132 pounds of muscle, encased in a double layer of cold-resistant fur. An insulating undercoat within, a waterproof guard layer without, a machine honed by evolution for a land where no other wild canid dares to tread. Three days without food, their broad, fur-covered paws distribute their weight across the snow, and still the pack advances, always advancing. Siberia, the coldest and most expansive territory on any continent. 5,200,000 square miles of wilderness, where winter persists for 8 months and the sun vanishes for weeks on end. From the southern taiga, the largest coniferous forest on Earth, encompassing 10% of the world's total forest cover. To the Arctic tundra in the north, this is the domain of creatures that have learned to survive where no other species dares to dwell. In Africa, water dictates power. Whoever controls the waterhole commands the kingdom. But in Siberia, the seasons hold the power of life and death. Seasons shift, the rules shift, the rulers shift. But which season truly decides who lives and who dies? The answer lies buried deep, beneath 3 feet of snow blanketing the land ahead of the wolf pack. And it begins with winter, the season where death arrives in silence. The pack threads through a rocky defile, heading toward the valley below. Each wolf patrols roughly 31 miles a day through forest, across frozen rivers, over snow-laden passes. A howl pierces the darkness, carrying up to 10 miles through the Arctic night. This is no cry of loneliness, it is a summons. The hunt is about to begin. Every wolf in the pack possesses a unique howl, an acoustic fingerprint. The alpha howls first. The pack joins in a symphony in the heart of the wild. But the wolf is not the only predator hunting in the winter darkness. Deeper in the taiga, where the snow bears no tracks, another shadow moves. Entirely alone. The Siberian tiger, the largest solitary hunter on the face of the earth. And unlike every other great cat on this planet, it has chosen to inhabit a land where no feline would dare set foot. Historical records document individuals exceeding 660 pounds, though in the wild today, adults typically range from 350 to 420 pounds. Nearly 11 feet from nose to tail tip. Shoulder height exceeding 3 feet. Bite force 1,000 psi sufficient to crush the femur of an adult deer in a single strike. But size is not what makes the Siberian tiger extraordinary. The thickest coat in the great cat family, a layer of subcutaneous fat, up to 4 inches deep across the belly. While the lioness in Africa shares her spoils with the pride, the Siberian tiger keeps everything for itself. It hunts alone. It feeds alone. It lives alone. Only when a tigress bears cubs does she tolerate another living creature within her territory, and only for the first 2 years. A male tiger's territory can sprawl across 400 square miles larger than many a great city, and he patrols every inch of it. The Siberian tiger moves through a Mongolian oak forest, eyes scanning the trees. Sika deer, its primary prey, are pawing through the snow for acorns, 200 yards ahead. The tiger lowers itself, belly kissing the snow. Each step, deliberate claws retracted, not a whisper of sound on the powdery surface. "50 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet. Every stride is a calculation. Distance, wind, angle of attack. The tiger launches 37 miles per hour, tearing through the snowpack. The Sika deer springs, but 3-inch canines have already locked onto its throat. One bite, the hunt is over. In Africa, the lioness hunts with her pride tactics built on numbers and coordination. In Siberia, the tiger hunts alone tactics built on absolute power and the element of surprise. Two continents, two philosophies, one outcome: the strongest eats first. But the Siberian tiger needs to feed only once a week, and between meals, it vanishes as though the tiger itself has swallowed it into darkness. Yet where the tiger ends, another kingdom begins upon the sea ice, a realm without trees, without soil, only ice and wind. The Kara Sea, near the Gulf of Ob, ice stretches to the horizon, a blinding, featureless expanse, silent enough to suffocate. And upon that 3-foot thick mantle of ice, the largest land predator on Earth is on patrol. The polar bear, nearly 1,000 pounds of pure primal power, clad in fur that appears white to the naked eye. But in reality, polar bear fur is entirely transparent. Each hair is a hollow tube that channels light, reflecting the snow around it. The skin beneath jet black, absorbing every last trace of warmth, the Arctic surrenders. Paws 12 inches across natural snowshoes, distributing nearly 1,000 pounds over thin ice without a single crack. Bite force, 1,200 psi, the most powerful in the entire bear family. More devastating than the Siberian tiger thousands of miles to the south. But the polar bear's most lethal weapon is not its fangs or claws. It is its sense of smell, capable of detecting prey up to 20 miles downwind. Farther than the human eye can see to the horizon, ringed seals the primary quarry rest beside breathing holes in the ice, 50 to 70 pounds, capable of diving deeper than 300 feet, swimming at 15 miles per hour. They maintain their breathing holes by scratching at the ice from below, and each seal keeps multiple holes across its territory. This means the polar bear can never know precisely which hole its prey will surface at. Beneath the water, a seal is virtually untouchable, but it must breathe, and each time it surfaces at a breathing hole, the polar bear is there. The bear lies motionless beside a hole 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes half a day. Patience in the Arctic is not a virtue. It is a condition of survival. A seal surfaces. The bear strikes a 12-inch paw, slams down like a sledgehammer, hauling the seal onto the ice in one explosive motion. "95% of the polar bear's diet comes from these seals. A single ringed seal contains up to 100,000 calories, enough energy for days on the ice. But winter is not merely the hunting season. Deep within a snowdrift on Wrangel Island, a pregnant female lies curled in her den, neither eating nor drinking, enduring a vigil of 5 months. Each day that passes, she loses nearly a pound of body weight, but within her belly, 2 tiny lives are growing, fueled entirely by the energy she sacrifices. The hunters battle winter, but the prey must choose stand their ground or flee. That choice will determine who survives when the snow begins to melt. And the answer differs depending on which species stands before the question. The reindeer choose to run. A herd, 1,000 strong, pushes southward from the Taimyr Peninsula, 620 miles through a white wilderness of tundra, heading for the taiga. The longest migration of any terrestrial mammal in the Northern Hemisphere, and every mile is a gamble between life and death. $330 to to 440 pounds apiece. Yet weight is not what protects them on this epic journey. Formation is. The mature bulls walk the perimeter antlers facing outward, ready for battle. The females and calves move at the center. The herd travels as a single living organism. Beneath the deep snow, lichen, their primary food source, awaits. Reindeer dig through the snowpack with their broad hooves, consuming 7 to 9 pounds of vegetation each day to maintain body heat. But there is a secret that science did not discover until 2011 through research by the Royal Society. Reindeer can see ultraviolet light. Their eyes, unlike those of any other mammal, detect wolf fur against a field of white snow. To the reindeer, a wolf is never invisible. But seeing the enemy does not guarantee escaping the enemy. The wolves emerge from the forest edge, the same pack that went 3 days without eating at the start of our story. The alpha raises its head, scents the air, signals. The wolf's tactic is not speed, it is coordination. 37 miles per hour when needed, but endurance is the true weapon. "31 miles patrolled every day. Relay pursuit when one tires, another takes over. No predator on the snow coordinates more effectively than the wolf. But this time, only one wolf breaks from the pack to hunt. The reindeer herd explodes. Chaos. A blizzard of kicked-up snow obscures everything beyond 10 feet. A calf falls behind its leg, trapped in a deep drift. In an instant, it is separated from the herd. The alpha wolf closes in. 400 psi locks onto the calf's neck. It collapses within 10 seconds. The wolf savors the kill, consuming up to 9 pounds in a single sitting, replenishing the energy lost over 3 days of fasting. But the reindeer herd presses on. "1,000 becomes 999. The migration does not halt for a single death. Life goes on. It always goes on, even as each passing season claims its toll. If you too have been captivated by this confrontation between predator and prey across the frozen frontier, share your thoughts in the comments below. Not every species chooses to run. The muskox, a survivor of the Ice Age, still standing when the woolly mammoth fell, still breathing when the Neanderthals vanished from the earth. 400 million years of evolution compressed into a single body weighing 880 pounds. Standing roughly 5 feet tall, draped in a shaggy coat up to 2 feet long that sweeps almost to the ground, and beneath that coarse outer armor, a secret caveat. An undercoat softer than silk, 8 times warmer than sheep's wool. No synthetic fiber ever engineered by human hands can rival what nature perfected millions of years ago. The reindeer runs. The muskox stands. 2 opposing strategies, same winter, same enemy. When wolves appear, the muskox herd does not scatter. They close ranks, forming a defensive circle, horns facing outward, calves sheltered at the center. A newborn muskox weighs only 10 to 15 pounds, so small that a single wolf lunge could prove fatal, and so the wall of horn and muscle that surrounds it is the only shield it has. The wolves circle, probing, testing, searching for a crack in the formation. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5. A young wolf edges too close, the dominant bull charges. Over 800 pounds hurtling forward, curved horns lowered like a plowshare. The young wolf is sent sprawling, retreating instantly. A cow surges out after it delivering a second blow to ensure the intruder understands the message. Then she falls back into formation. The wolves withdraw, not because they are weak, but because the price is too high. A wolf struck by a muskox horn can suffer broken ribs. Broken ribs mean death. Wolves do not gamble against those odds. The muskox stands its ground, much as the hippo holds its territory. 800 pounds of muskox, and it stands. The body dictates the tactic. Across every continent, this law does not change. But winter does not last forever. And when the snow begins to flow in streams, the balance of power will reverse entirely. Spring arrives, and it announces itself with a roar rising from the depths of the earth. The brown bear emerges into the light after a hibernation lasting roughly 5 to 7 months, rising to nearly 10 feet when it stands on its hind legs. Bite force, 975 psi. Speed, 35 miles per hour. Claws, 4 inches long. But right now, it is weak, ravenous, having lost nearly half its body weight, and it needs food before its own body begins consuming its muscle. A sense of smell, 2,100 times more acute than a human's guides it to the damp earth of early spring. There are no grand feasts of meat. Spring has only just begun, and nature at this moment is a brutal equation of survival. The brown bear lowers its head. Those lethal weapons, 4-inch claws, now function as perfect excavation machines. This enormous biological engine unleashes its power. It flips boulders weighing hundreds of pounds as effortlessly as turning a dry leaf. It shreds rotting logs with a single swipe of its paw. The target? Roots, fresh shoots, and thousands of fat, drowsy insects. It sounds modest. But for a machine running on fumes, every gram of protein and fat is a lifeline, the critical restart that keeps the engine from devouring itself. It chews ravenously. Every calorie is hoarded to halt the breakdown of its own muscle tissue. Before it can reclaim its throne as the ultimate predator, the brown bear must first become the most patient forager on the landscape surviving the earliest, leanest days of spring. Winter has passed. Spring brings food, brings light, brings hope. But spring does not bring only sustenance. It brings the next generation, and with a new generation come dangers unlike any before. Wrangel Island, March. The sun appears for the first time in weeks, casting a pale gold wash across the snow-covered slopes. A small opening forms in the hillside snowpack, then widens. A black nose emerges, drawing in the biting air, a mother polar bear, seeing light for the first time in 5 months of darkness. She steps out, and behind her, 2 cubs toddle after, each weighing barely 25 pounds, their white fur impossibly soft, their wide eyes beholding the world for the very first time. "5 months without food. The mother has lost nearly 40% of her body weight from close to 1,000 pounds down to barely 600. Every ounce of that energy has been converted into milk, polar bear milk containing 60% fat, thick as cream, sustaining 2 lives through the longest winter on Earth. But now, she is starving, and her 2 cubs need her alive. The mother leads them down the slope, the cubs sliding on the snow, tumbling, face-planting, then scrambling upright again. The world beyond the den is too vast, too bright, too cold. Their tiny legs have never walked on anything but rock in a darkened chamber. But she has no time to let them acclimate. The sea ice is melting. Arctic sea ice is losing more than 12% of its extent every decade. According to NASA satellite data, the fastest rate of decline in recorded history. Each spring, the distance from shore to the ice edge where the seals congregate grows a little farther. And each year, the mother must travel farther, swim longer, on less energy. She needs to reach the ice edge before the ice fractures. It is a race against time, and time is winning. The mother steps onto the sea ice. With every stride, she pauses to listen faint cracking sounds beneath her feet. The ice here is thinner than in years past. Thinner every year. The two cubs press close behind her, stepping precisely into the prints she leaves, an ancient instinct telling them that where their mother has trodden is safe. A crack. The ice splits beneath the mother's feet. A ribbon of black water opens between two flows. The mother leaps across. She turns back. Two cubs stand on the far side, terrified, crying out. The gap is wider than they are long. For the first time in their brief lives, they face something that instinct has not taught them to overcome. The mother rumbles softly, a sound of reassurance, not threat. One cub jumps, plunges into the frigid water, paddles frantically to the other side. The mother uses her muzzle to push it up onto the ice. The second cub follows. All three press forward once more. The water was cold enough that both cubs shiver for hours afterward. At last the ice edge. Ringed seals lie basking beside their breathing holes. The mother lowers herself, advancing step by step, a hunting technique she has perfected over 10 years. But this time, she is not hunting for herself alone. She is hunting for the future. The mother charges a 12-inch paw, slams down. The seal thrashes, but it is 1 second too slow. The first meal after 5 months of fasting. The two cubs crowd in, watching eagerly as their mother tears into the flesh. They are no longer content to wait for milk. Their milk teeth are sharp enough now to taste the spoils. The salt of blood and the richness of seal blubber are formally imprinted into their memory as the flavor of survival. This is the first practical lesson, and in a warming world, it may be the most important. Hunt fast, eat fast, before the ice disappears beneath your feet. The mother surrenders the finest cuts of skin and blubber to her young seal. Fat converts directly into energy, into muscle mass and fat reserves, into the continued existence of the next generation. The Arctic cycle from sea ice, through seal, through bear, to cub. Every link depends upon the one before it. But the entire cycle depends on a single thing, ice, and the ice is vanishing. Thousands of miles to the south, in the taiga, another mother is teaching her young their first lesson. But here, the curriculum is not ice, it is running water. A Kamchatka stream. Salmon surge upstream, thousands of them, jostling past boulders, leaping up cascades. The entire river seethes with life. A brown bear wades to the bank and steps in, standing imperious in the current icy water rushing past her flanks, her eyes locked on the surface below, waiting. A salmon leaps the bear, swings a paw and snatches it mid-air, jaws clamping shut. Precise to the fraction of an inch, the flawless reflex of a predatory machine refined over thousands of generations of evolution. But the feast is anything but easy. Beneath the churning current, thousands of salmon are rocketing past at remarkable speed. Some lunges produce nothing but a white explosion of spray and an empty stomach. Wading along the shallows, the bear methodically flips stones, searching for stranded fish or stray eggs washed downstream. The competition is fierce. 200 yards away, other enormous males snarl and jostle, claiming the prime positions at the foot of the falls. In the natural world, the law of the strongest always presides. To avoid bloody confrontations, she patiently retreats upstream, where the current is gentler, the ground safer, even if the fish are fewer. Between catches, the survival instinct speaks. She lumbers up onto the grassy bank, overturning rocks, digging for fresh roots. The brown bear is an omnivore, and the dietary flexibility is precisely why it dominates every landscape, from Alaska to Kamchatka. She returns to midstream, back to stillness. Hundreds of pounds of living sculpture, motionless in the current. She understands the most critical lesson of the hunt. Patience is the supreme weapon of the predator. A silver flash. Water erupts. This strike is a killing blow. Razor teeth pin the thrashing salmon in an inescapable grip. The protein-rich, fat-laden feast continues, fueling reserves for the winter ahead. And the salmon do not nourish the bear alone. The carcass remnants she drags into the forest will decompose nitrogen and phosphorus from the ocean, seeping deep into the soil, feeding the roots, sustaining an entire ecosystem. Spring turns to summer, and in Siberia, summer is no holiday, it is a sprint. Summer in Siberia lasts a mere 2 to 3 months, brutally short, and every species knows each day of sunlight is a day borrowed from the winter to come. It is an arms race, every creature racing to stockpile, racing to breed, racing to teach its young, because winter does not ask who is ready. The muskox sheds its thick winter kivyut, replacing it with a lighter summer coat. Tufts of shed fiber drift across the tundra so precious that indigenous peoples gather them to weave into the most expensive scarves in the world. Then autumn arrives. Birch leaves blaze gold and fall like rain. Temperatures plummet from around 60 degrees Fahrenheit to below freezing in a matter of weeks. The brown bear takes its final meals. The wolf pack tightens formation, drilling the young wolves through their last lessons. The reindeer begin turning northward, the reverse of the direction they fled 6 months before. The wheel of the seasons completes one revolution, and with every turn, the question remains the same. This time, who will not survive? But there is one enemy that no species can outrun, and it arrives in silence. Siberia is warming at twice the global average. The permanently frozen ground beneath the tundra permafrost is thawing, and locked within that ground, a ticking time bomb. $1.5 trillion tons of carbon, double the total amount of carbon dioxide currently in Earth's atmosphere. A bomb that humanity cannot defuse. If the permafrost continues to thaw, that carbon will escape methane, and CO2 will accelerate the warming, and the spiral will become irreversible. Sea ice is losing more than 12% of its coverage every decade. For polar bears, that means the hunting platform is literally disappearing beneath their feet. Some populations have declined by more than 40%, such as the southern Beaufort Sea population, where the ice is retreating fastest. The mother bear we have been following, she and her 2 cubs, will have to swim farther every year, hunt harder every season. And not every year will both cubs survive their first winter. The Siberian tiger, only around 600 individuals remain in the wild. That number has risen slightly, from roughly 350 in 2005. A small victory for conservation, but one as fragile as the spring ice. "600 tigers across 5 million square miles of taiga. Each tiger requires 400 square miles of territory. When the forest is felled, the territory shrinks and the tiger disappears. Half a world away, in Africa, the shoebill faces the same story. Only 5,000 individuals remain. Papyrus marshes are being drained for agriculture. Habitat vanishes day by day. A bird that stands motionless for over an hour waiting for a single fish, but cannot stand and wait for its habitat to return. Two continents, two ecosystems. One threat. Humans are reshaping the world faster than any species can adapt. But life in Siberia has never been easy. This land has endured dozens of ice ages, dozens of mass extinctions. And the species that have survived the muskox, the reindeer, the grey wolf, have proved that adaptation is not a choice. It is a primal instinct carved into every cell across millions of years. The wolf pack presses on. Winter returns. The alpha leads, 7 silhouettes, cutting through the blizzard, just as they were on the first day we encountered them. Thank you for journeying with WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless stories waiting to be told. Until our next adventure, and if you have not yet subscribed, now is the perfect time. Welcome to WildVerse, where we explore the grandest mysteries of the natural world. Subscribe and join the journey into the wild unknown. Ribs pressing sharp against sun-scorched hides, the Acilia pride's not taken a large kill in days. Hunger carves deeper lines into their flanks with every passing hour. Seven lionesses and 1 adult male, that is all that remains of this empire, along with 4 cubs barely 3 months old, still too small to keep pace with the pride. Ruaha, Tanzania's largest national park, spanning over 20,000 square miles, shelters roughly 10% of all the lions on Earth within its borders of riverine forest and baobab woodland. This territory sits at the crossroads of southern and eastern African ecosystems, where species from both regions overlap, producing a density of biodiversity few places on the continent can rival. More than 570 bird species have been recorded here, from lilac-breasted rollers to martial eagles. But that number alone does not guarantee survival for the predators below. In Ruaha, the dry season is the harshest trial of all, a crucible that strips the landscape to bone and separates the resilient from the doomed. When drought pushes a dynasty to the brink, can collective strength rescue an empire on the verge of collapse, or will the land reclaim what it once gave? The answer begins with a desperate gamble hunting giraffe, the tallest and among the most dangerous prey any lion can pursue across the open savanna. A Maasai giraffe stands towering over the savanna, its head reaching above 18 feet. From that height, it detects every movement within a radius of miles across the flat terrain. Two lionesses crawl flat against the earth, muscles taut as bowstrings. The gap closes to 100 feet, then 65, then 50. Every inch demands agonizing patience. But the cracked ground betrays them. A single crunch, the giraffe wheels around, 4 long legs lashing backward like steel beams. A kick scythes through the air, missing a lioness by inches. The Acilia pride retreats, bellies still empty. The hunt has failed before it truly began, and the energy spent cannot be recovered without food. Yet this seemingly invincible giant harbors a fatal vulnerability that no one expects, a weakness hidden in the very act of sustaining its own colossal body. To understand why the Acilia pride failed, one must first understand the weaponry of the opponent standing before them, an animal armed from skull to hoof. The Maasai giraffe is the tallest land animal on the planet, towering above the thorn-veiled canopy. Height is not merely an advantage of vision, it is a shield of defense. Atop each giraffe's skull sit skin-covered bony structures called ossicones, not true horns, but weapons forged through millennia of combat within the species. When two males compete for mating rights, they perform a ritual called necking, swinging necks longer than 6 feet into each other with force enough to shatter a rival's jawbone. The heart of a giraffe weighs 24 pounds, the largest of any land animal, a muscular engine pumping blood upward against gravity through a neck spanning over 6 feet. A specialized circulatory system with one-way valves regulates blood pressure at twice the level found in humans, preventing fatal surges when the animal raises or lowers its head. Without this system, every bow of the head to drink would trigger a stroke, and every lift would cause the brain to starve for oxygen within seconds. But the most formidable weapon is not on the head. It is in the legs. Each one a bony column, capable of delivering strikes with devastating precision. A single giraffe kick carries enough force to kill a full-grown lion. The hooves, hardened and broad as dinner plates, strike with the impact of a sledgehammer. Shattered skulls, broken ribs, these are not theories, but field observations documented across decades of study by researchers from the Serengeti to the Kalahari. A tongue stretching 20 inches long, coated in dark melanin that shields against ultraviolet rays, allows them to strip thorny acacia leaves without a scratch, feeding where no competitor dares. They sleep only 30 minutes to 2 hours each day, divided into micronaps lasting seconds. In a landscape patrolled by lions and hyenas, deep sleep is a death sentence. Even during birth, a mother giraffe remains standing. The calf drops from a height above 6 feet, a brutal fall onto hard ground, yet essential to trigger the first breath. The newborn must stand within 1 hour, or become a meal for lurking predators. Those shaky first steps determine whether the calf lives to see the following dawn. Only 50 to 75% of giraffe calves survive to adulthood. Lions are the primary cause of mortality, followed by spotted hyenas and leopards hunting under darkness. Giraffe mothers organize a creche system, taking turns guarding the young, while others feed across distant acacia groves. Even giants require community to raise their offspring. But the giraffe is not the only creature that forces the Acilia pride to pay a price in bruises, broken bones, and failed hunts across Ruaha's unforgiving terrain. Cape buffalo, a 2,000-pound mass of muscle-bearing horns capable of piercing a truck panel, approach every threat with aggression written into their very nature. When the lion pride approaches, Cape buffalo do not flee. They pivot, forming a wall of horns, a barricade of bone that punishes any attacker reckless enough to charge head-on. This is not passive defense. The Cape buffalo is one of the few species that actively counterattacks lions pursuing them with a fury that reverses the roles of hunter and hunted. When a calf is separated from the herd, the entire group charges forward, not to escape but to retaliate. Horns slash, hooves trample, and lions are forced into trees to save their lives. The maternal bond among Cape buffalo runs so deep that even a male lion twice the weight of a lioness will not risk a confrontation when the full herd of 500 or more assembles. Burchell's zebra fights by a different philosophy, not with numbers, but with position, where every member of the family unit knows precisely where to stand during an attack. The lead stallion always holds the rear, placing itself between the pursuers and the young. It sacrifices forward vision to protect what lies behind, a calculated trade only experience teaches. The harem structure, one stallion, several mares and foals, forms a compact yet effective fighting unit, bonded through years of mutual grooming and shared vigilance. And when cornered, a zebra wheels around, delivering a reverse kick, powerful enough to shatter the jaw of any predator that ventures too close, sometimes killing hyenas outright. With a single-chambered stomach and hindgut fermentation, zebras process even coarse, mature grasses that ruminants ignore, extracting calories from vegetation other grazers cannot digest. They are the pioneers of the grassland, clearing tall, fibrous stems to expose tender shoots beneath for the antelope and gazelles that follow in their wake. This sequential grazing relationship, zebras leading, antelope trailing, stands as one of the savanna's most silent alliances, an ecological partnership older than any human civilization. Even the wildebeest, the lion's most familiar quarry, refuses to surrender quietly when cornered at the river's edge during the punishing heat of dry season. A wildebeest bull abruptly turns, rears upward, and drives its horns straight into a lion's chest. Sometimes, the most desperate resistance proves the most effective defense against a predator. Nearly 1.5 million wildebeest migrate through this region each year, crossing 3,000 miles in an endless circuit driven by the search for fresh grazing and seasonal rainfall. Approximately 80% of wildebeest calves are born within a 2 to 3 week window, a strategy designed to overwhelm predators through sheer volume, flooding the plains with young. But even that tactic only delays the inevitable. When the dry season tightens its grip, water vanishes, and prey is funneled toward the last remaining pools along the Great Ruar. And there, the Acilia pride waits. Yet even a fortress has cracks, and this starving empire is about to face enemies more dangerous than any prey it has pursued. Three weeks without a proper meal. The cubs cry at night, a thin mewling sound that carries across the still air and reveals the pride's position to every listening ear. The Acilia pride decides to try for zebra. Two lionesses take the lead, crawling along a dry stream bed, closing on a herd drinking at the water's edge beneath scattered acacias. But the adult male, heavy and impatient, breaks cover too early. His labored breathing shatters the silence. The zebra herd erupts, scattering into a cloud of golden dust. Another failed hunt. The raw power of the male, the weapon that can bring down a buffalo, becomes a liability when stealth is required, and every sound betrays the ambush. The following day, the target shifts to wildebeest. Three lionesses coordinate a flanking maneuver, driving the prey toward a dry riverbank where the crumbling soil limits escape routes. But the temperature has surpassed 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Lions possess no sweat glands. They can only shed heat by panting, tongues lolling, burning through precious energy with every gasping breath. After 40 seconds of pursuit, lactic acid floods the muscles. Legs grow leaden. The wildebeest surges ahead in the final stretch, vanishing behind a line of tamarind trees. The Acilia pride collapses onto the ground, gasping. Core body temperature spikes above 104 degrees Fahrenheit without shade within 10 minutes. Heat stroke becomes a genuine and lethal threat. Here lies the cruel paradox. The lion is an apex predator, yet physiology imposes severe limits. No sweat glands, no capacity for prolonged chase, no tolerance for the equatorial midday sun. Ruar, in the dry season, transforms lions from rulers into prisoners of their own shade, confined to the shadows, hunting only when the temperature dips toward bearable. The next attempt targets buffalo, but this time the prey does not run. It turns, lowers its massive boss of fused horn, and faces the pride with unyielding defiance. A buffalo cow stands firm, shielding her calf behind her massive flank. The lionesses encircle, but when they rush in, the entire herd wheels around in formation. A wall of horns rises. 600 pounds of force drives forward. One lioness is hurled through the air, tumbling across the parched earth in a spray of red dust. The maternal bond among buffalo overpowers any hunting tactic the Acilia pride can devise. The herd will sacrifice speed for solidarity, and that solidarity is lethal. The lioness rises, limping badly. The shoulder wound will haunt her for days, stiffening with each cold dawn. She is the pride's most skilled and experienced hunter. Losing their lead huntress, the Acilia dynasty teeters like an acacia torn from its roots by a flood, exposed and vulnerable from every direction. Then the elephants arrive grey mountains moving through the Mayombo woodland, their feet cracking branches, their rumbles vibrating through the ground at frequencies below human hearing. A solitary lioness encounters an African elephant at the waterhole, a place where both species need water to survive, but only one commands absolute authority. The elephant stamps the dusty ground, sending tremors through the earth that ripple outward for dozens of feet. It swings its trunk, hurling red soil skyward in warning. The lioness steps back, not from fear, but from instinct, the knowledge encoded through generations that no fight with an elephant is worth losing everything over. The African elephant, the heaviest land creature on the planet, capable of drinking over 50 gallons of water per day, is the undisputed sovereign of every waterhole it visits. In Ruaha, even the apex of the food chain must yield to 6 tons of bone and muscle. Hierarchy here is measured in weight, and the elephant outweighs all arguments. But hunger is not the only threat. As night falls, a different sound rises from the darkness, the bone-chilling laughter of spotted hyenas echoing along the dry riverbed. The Ruaha hyena clan, a matriarchal society numbering up to 100 members, operates under a female-dominated hierarchy, more rigid and complex than that of any primate troop. Females rule. From within the womb, androgen hormones flood the female embryo, producing daughters that are more aggressive, larger, and stronger than the males from birth onward. Rank is inherited from the mother. A queen's daughter is born into aristocracy, automatically outranking every male and every subordinate female's offspring within the clan structure. With a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch is enough to crush the thigh bone of a buffalo, spotted hyenas are not scavengers. They are formidable predators and direct competitors of lions. And tonight, they have caught the scent of blood from the wounded lioness, struck by the buffalo, a trail of iron and weakness carried on the warm evening breeze. Six hyenas circle in the darkness, their staccato giggles echoing without pause, not from amusement, but as coordinated attack signals calibrated to test the pride's resolve. The Acilia male, weighing nearly 450 pounds, emerges from the shadows, his dark mane bristling. His roar resonates across 5 miles of silent night, shaking the air itself. The hyenas withdraw into the thorn scrub, but they do not leave the vicinity. They simply wait in the darkness, patient as stone, for any sign of further weakness. The fission-fusion social system of spotted hyenas allows them to splinter into small scouting parties and reassemble into a unified, overwhelming clan force at any moment of opportunity. One never knows whether the encounter involves 6 individuals or 60, and that uncertainty alone is enough to keep even the most seasoned pride on constant alert. Male hyenas leave their natal clan upon reaching maturity between 2 and 3 years old, wandering in search of a new clan, starting from the bottom of the social ladder, but the females remain, inheriting power. A greater danger looms on the horizon. 2 unfamiliar males have been spotted at the edge of the territory, their scent fresh on the boundary marking stones. If they infiltrate successfully, the law of nature has already written the outcome: every cub in the pride will be killed to bring the females back into estrus. The 4 Acilia cubs, less than 3 months old, still nursing, still blind to the politics of territory, would be the first targets of any incoming males. The Acilia pride fights on too many fronts. Hunger ahead, hyenas flanking, invaders behind. The weight of survival presses from every direction without mercy or reprieve. But in Ruaha, lions are not the only ones confronting the equation of survival. Other predators have chosen an entirely opposite path, trading strength for velocity. The cheetah, a biological instrument honed by 40 million years of evolution for a single purpose: velocity. 0 to 70 miles per hour in 3 seconds, accelerating faster than most production supercars. But speed carries a cost. Light bones, a slender frame, a weak jaw, the cheetah wins the race but loses the war. Any larger rival can steal its hard-earned meal. A female cheetah lives in solitude, bearing the burden of raising cubs, hunting, and defending a territory spanning up to 1,500 square miles entirely alone across open grassland. Males are different. They form coalitions, typically 2 to 3 brothers from the same mother, and, in exceedingly rare cases, a coalition of 5 males emerges like the legendary Tano Bora of the Masai Mara. Across the entire world, only about 7,100 cheetahs remain scattered across fragmented habitats, hemmed in by agriculture, roads, and the expanding footprint of human settlement. "90% of the species shares a nearly identical genetic blueprint, the consequence of a near-extinction bottleneck 10,000 years ago that left the population perilously vulnerable to disease. Mortality among cheetah cubs in their first 3 months reaches 70 to 90%, driven primarily by lions and hyenas. Every cub that reaches independence defies odds that would extinguish most bloodlines. A mother cheetah detects a leopard advancing toward her litter, its spotted form ghosting through the tall grass. The odds are stacked against her. A leopard is heavier and stronger. This is the phenomenon of competitor killing, a behavior documented across African carnivore guilds, where eliminating future rivals confers a survival advantage regardless of hunger. But maternal instinct overrides every calculation of risk. The mother charges in, snarling with fury, hackles raised to exaggerate her size, and forces the intruder to retreat. Boldness prevails. Thousands of miles from Ruaha, in Zambia's Luangwa Valley, known as the Valley of the Leopard, a contrasting story unfolds beneath a canopy of ebony and mahogany. A pregnant female leopard hunts alone through the night, her rosette-patterned coat dissolving into shadow. Her distinctive rasping call rings out, declaring territorial sovereignty across the valley. Three days later, concealed in a rock den beyond any line of sight, 3 leopard cubs are born, eyes sealed shut, each weighing less than a pound, utterly dependent on their mother. By day 7, they take their first crawling steps across the cool stone floor. The mother licks away every trace of scent, because here, scent is a death warrant. The maternal bond in leopards persists for 18 to 24 months, among the longest of any great cat. Every hunting skill, from stalking to climbing, must be taught individually. The mother leaves the den and brings down an impala at the water's edge. With strength refined across millions of years, she hauls the carcass equal to her own body weight up into a tree. But safety is relative. A pack of African wild dogs appears 15 strong, boasting an 80% hunt success rate, the highest of any large African predator on the savanna. The African wild dog, the second most endangered large carnivore on the continent, with only about 6,600 mature individuals surviving in isolated pockets across sub-Saharan Africa. They surround the base of the tree, barking incessantly, their painted coats flashing in the dappled light. The mother leopard lies frozen on the branch, gripping the carcass with locked claws. Eventually, the wild dog pack moves on, following the scent of easier quarry. But the meal is lost. The fastest dog has already snatched the fallen meat from the ground. The price of solitude. There is no one to provide cover, no ally to share the watch. The Acilia pride at least has each other. A leopard has only itself and its wits. Pride or solitary, each path exacts a toll that nature demands be paid in full, with interest compounded across every season, every hunt, every sleepless night. If the struggle for survival in Ruaha captivates, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Every voice strengthens this community of wildlife enthusiasts. But the Acilia story is far from over. Back in Ruaha, the conflict escalates as the river recedes further and the pools shrink to mirrors of red mud. Cape buffalo, 2,000 pounds of muscle and horn, demand the brute strength of a male lion to bring down. But the Acilia male cannot be everywhere at once. He must patrol the territory, scent-mark boundaries, and watch for intruders, a circuit that spans miles of scorched terrain. The male's power is stretched dangerously thin. When 3 lionesses attempt to take buffalo without the male's support, the result is catastrophic, a lesson written in bruised ribs and limping bodies. The buffalo herd does not run. They pivot, forming ranks a wall of horns rising like a steel forest, their collective breath steaming in the early morning chill. Then they advance. Three lionesses are driven back across the clearing, then pinned against the base of a baobab. its trunk too smooth to climb, offering neither shelter nor escape. Under moonlight, a Nile crocodile slides into the shallow river where prey, fleeing the lions unwittingly, races straight into the jaws of another predator lurking just beneath the surface. Ruaha leaves no room for error. Every stride away from one killer can lead directly into the mouth of another. The margin between survival and death is measured in heartbeats. The Acilia pride stands at the edge of oblivion. Bodies wasted, wounds unhealed, hyenas probing without cease, and the foreign males still circling somewhere beyond the tree line. The four gaunt cubs press against their mothers, mewling softly. The communal nursing system allows mothers to take turns feeding, but no lioness produces enough milk on an empty stomach. Only two paths remain, rise or vanish into Ruaha's history, alongside every dynasty that came before them, leaving nothing but scattered bones and fading paw prints in the dust. But nature does not write scripts for those who surrender, and the Acilia pride, after all the failures, the wounds, and the hungry nights, begins to adapt from within. Not through strength alone, through intelligence, reading the land, studying prey patterns, and turning the dry season's cruelty into a weapon of ambush and calculated patience. The oldest lioness, the veteran who has led hundreds of hunts across every season, observes from a granite ridge. She no longer charges headlong, she waits and watches. The pride gathers at the last remaining pool along the great Ruaha, not to drink, but to ambush whatever arrives at the water's edge, driven by a thirst it cannot resist. This is a strategy only battle-hardened prides master, letting the prey come to them, conserving precious energy while the sun and drought do the work of funneling targets. During the Ruaha dry season, water becomes the perfect trap. Every creature, strong or frail, predator or prey, must come to drink or perish within days. Seven lionesses split into two groups. Three lie concealed along the southern bank, where low scrub hides their tawny silhouettes. The remaining four circle to the northern approach. The pincer is set a formation perfected over generations of communal hunting, where each lioness knows her role as precisely as soldiers in a disciplined regiment. A small herd of impala, 8 animals, approaches the water's edge, cautious with every step. Nostrils flare, ears pivot in all directions, scanning for the scent of danger. The shoulder-wounded lioness lies still as carved stone. She can no longer sprint, but she can serve as a decoy holding position, steering prey toward her waiting teammates. The instant the lead impala dips its head to drink, the 4 northern lionesses erupt from cover, not to catch but to drive the herd southward in controlled panic. The impala panic, bolting due south directly into the three lionesses waiting in ambush among the low scrub, invisible until the final, fatal second. In under 4 seconds, one impala is brought down, neck seized, body crumpling into the dust. The first meal in weeks sends tremors of energy through the pride. Not a feast. A single impala feeds only 2 lionesses to satiation, but it marks a turning point, proof that the new tactic of patience and precision works. The cubs, 4 gaunt youngsters, receive the smallest portions, scraps the mothers relinquish from their jaws. In the world of lions, the young do not eat first. Energy returns slowly. Eyes brighten behind dust-caked lids. Strides grow steadier across the cracked riverbed. Muscles begin to remember what power once felt like. For the first time in weeks, the lionesses lie beside one another, grooming their companions with rough tongues. Social bonds are reinforced. A pride survives only when each member stands for the rest. The next hunt targets zebra, but this time the strategy is entirely different, rebuilt from the ground up using lessons paid for in failure and injury. Instead of chasing under the searing sun, the Acilia pride waits for dusk when the temperature drops and muscles are no longer threatened by the crippling onset of heat stroke. The 2 fastest lionesses flank from opposite directions, cutting an aging zebra away from the herd. The lead stallion turns back to defend, but arrives a fatal second too late. The lesson drawn from defeat: never pursue the strongest individual. Target the slowest, the old, the weak, the sick, and let natural selection guide the kill. Nature does not judge cruelty, it judges only inefficiency. A wasted hunt costs calories the pride cannot afford, and calories are the currency of empires in Ruaha. The wounded lioness, the pride's finest hunter, rejoins the coordinated effort for the first time since the buffalo strike, limping but determined. Her shoulder still aches with each stride, but she assumes the role of interceptor rather than pursuer. A decade of experience compensates for the speed her injury has stolen. The Acilia pride has found its rhythm, again a coordinated hunting machine honed by starvation. But the greatest test has yet to come, waiting at the waterhole. The giraffe, the giant that defeated the Acilia pride at the outset, still roams freely across the territory, browsing the high canopy beyond the reach of other herbivores. The success rate for lions hunting giraffe falls below 30%. This is the most challenging quarry on the savanna and the most rewarding, offering enough meat to sustain a pride for days. Then, on a single late afternoon as the sky turns copper and vermilion, what the Acilia pride has waited weeks for finally arrives at the water's edge. A Maasai giraffe approaches the waterhole alone. Its front legs begin to splay awkwardly, lowering that neck, stretching more than 6 feet slowly toward the glinting surface. This is the moment that evolution cannot protect the 3 to 4 seconds of vulnerability that no amount of height or kicking power can defend against. When a giraffe drinks, the entire circulatory system, the 2-4-pound heart, blood pressure at twice human levels, is forced into a perilous position between gravity and consciousness. One-way valves in the jugular veins prevent blood from surging into the brain in the descent, a marvel of cardiovascular engineering unique among living mammals. But the very mechanism meant to protect becomes a shackle. With its head lowered, a giraffe cannot rise instantly. It needs at least 3 to 4 seconds for the system to recalibrate. Three to 4 seconds. In the predator's world, that is a lifetime, an eternity in which fortune shifts from the hunted to the hunter in a single breath. The Acilia pride has watched for weeks, has learned the giraffe's schedule, has waited with the patience of stone for precisely this configuration of time and place. Four lionesses press flat against the earth, unhurried this time, breathing through open mouths. The distance shrinks to 65 feet, then 50, then 30. The wind holds still. The giraffe lowers its head, lips touch water. The surface ripples outward in widening rings, the last peaceful moment before the world ignites. Four tawny shapes explode upward in unison. One leaps onto the broad back, claws locked deep into the hide. Two others strike the flanks. The fourth seizes the rear hamstring. The combined weight of 4 lionesses still falls short of half the giraffe's mass, but they know precisely where to bite the tendons, the throat, the soft tissue behind the skull. The giraffe bellows a sound few living humans have ever witnessed and struggles to rise on legs, trembling with adrenaline. But the weight of 4 attackers drags it earthward. The battle stretches on for nearly 15 minutes under a bruised violet sky. The giraffe refuses to fall. Its strength, even under assault from 4 predators, remains staggering. At last, drained of blood and energy, the giant buckles. Its knees strike the earth. Red dust billows upward in a slow cloud. Silence descends across the waterhole. The Acilia male arrives afterward, drawn by the scent of the kill. A low rumble, not a threat, but a declaration of feeding priority. In lion society, the male eats first. The largest feast of the dry season. A single adult giraffe provides enough meat to sustain the entire pride for nearly a week. Bones, marrow, hide, and all. Vultures have already gathered overhead, wheeling in patient spirals, casting moving shadows across the kill site. They will consume the remains. Nothing goes to waste in Ruaha. But victory comes at a cost. A dynasty is built upon the downfall of another. That is the law Ruaha writes in blood and dust across the generations. The following day, a second opportunity appears on the heat-shimmered horizon. A mother giraffe and her young calf move near the waterhole, unaware of the pride lying in wait. The Acilia pride does not hesitate. The same tactic targeting the vulnerable moment of drinking. The mother giraffe attempts to shield her calf, but the lion's coordinated instinct strikes faster. Two consecutive large kills in as many days. The Acilia pride steps back from the precipice of collapse into a phase of recovery, bellies distended, muscles regaining tone. The emotional gravity of that moment, an empire surviving on the death of another, is the inescapable truth of Ruaha, where every triumph carries the shadow of loss. Empires do not always crumble from the outside. Sometimes, patience itself, waiting for an adversary to reveal its own weakness, becomes the decisive weapon wielded by the desperate. The punishing cycle of Ruaha demands not only strength but memory, the ability to learn from failure and forge it into triumph against the next season's trials. Bellies full, wounds beginning to heal beneath crusted scabs. The Acilia pride sinks into deep sleep. The state researchers call a meat coma, the heavy slumber following a massive kill. But even in sleep, social instinct persists. Ears twitch at distant sounds. A lioness shifts to cover a cub with her paw. Protection continues, even in unconsciousness. Two lionesses lie pressed together, licking each other's wounds with slow deliberation. Lion saliva contains antibacterial enzymes. Grooming is not merely affection, but battlefield medicine refined by evolution. They rub heads against each other, the ritual of head-rubbing blending scents to create a collective odor. In lion society, a shared scent is identity, the line between ally and enemy. The four cubs, full-bellied for the first time in weeks, begin to play beneath the dappled shade of an acacia, their movements loose and unguarded. They pounce on their mother's tails, tumble across dry grass, and stalk one another in mock ambushes. This is not a game, this is a classroom, where survival is the only syllabus. Every pounce, every mock ambush, every clumsy leap sharpens the instincts that the future will demand when these cubs must hunt for themselves or starve. In 6 weeks, they will leave the nursery to officially join the pride on hunts. But for now, the creche system remains in operation, mothers, rotating between nursing and standing guard. Whichever mother needs to hunt entrusts her cubs to a companion. Upon returning, she calls with a distinctive low rumble, and the cubs recognize their own mother's voice among dozens of sounds. Within the Acilia dynasty, no lioness raises her young alone. The burden of motherhood is shared across every female, a cooperative bond that separates lions from all other great cats. Mating season begins as the first distant clouds hint at rain. The Acilia male devotes his attention to each lioness in turn, mating repeatedly over several days with each partner. In a few months, the pregnant lionesses will seek secluded spots to give birth. They will relocate the cubs every 3 to 4 days, shifting positions before scent accumulates and betrays them. The next generation is being sown into Ruaha's dust. But for that generation to survive beyond infancy, the dynasty must endure long enough to raise them. The 2 unfamiliar males, the threat from the territory's edge, have vanished into the Mayombo woodland. Perhaps they sensed the Acilia pride had recovered its strength and cohesion. But the threat will return. In Ruaha, there is always someone waiting, another coalition, another clan, another drought circling the edges of every empire. Every night the hyenas come back, their eerie laughter rising from the riverbank, probing for cracks in the pride's defense, testing whether exhaustion has opened a gap. But this time, the Acilia pride holds firm without flinching. 7 lionesses form a line, shoulder to shoulder, the male roaring from behind them like rolling thunder. The hyenas retreat into the scrubland shadows. Not forever, but today, the empire still stands, its territory intact, its cubs alive and growing. Ruaha stretches out in silence beneath a sky scoured clean by wind. The great Ruaha River, a lifeline bled nearly dry, still releases its final drops, keeping the cycle turning. Power here is never permanent. The dry season will return with its familiar cruelty. Another pride will challenge. Invaders will come searching for territory and breeding rights. That is the cycle of Ruaha. No permanent victors, only those who have not yet lost. The land remembers every dynasty and forgets none. Since the 1990s, the flow of the Great Ruaha has plummeted by 80%, drained by upstream agricultural irrigation that diverts water long before it reaches the park's parched lowlands. The river that sustains 10% of the world's lions is slowly running dry, and with it, the future of every species that depends upon its seasonal pulse. The national park's elevation ranges from 2,500 to nearly 6,000 feet, creating temperature variations and habitat diversity that nurture hundreds of species drawn from both southern and eastern Africa. But all that diversity hinges upon a single variable: water. Remove it, and the entire web predator, prey, scavenger, and seed collapses in sequence. Protecting Ruaha means more than safeguarding lions. It means preserving an entire ecological web, from giraffes to hyenas, from cheetahs to crocodiles, all tethered to one diminishing river. Over 20,000 square miles of wilderness, one of Tanzania's least visited national parks, still retains a primordial character that much of Africa has already surrendered to development: agriculture. But that primordial character is more fragile than anyone imagines, a single failed rainy season away from tipping into irreversible decline. The Acilia pride rests on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley. 7 silhouettes etched against the blazing red of a Ruaha sunset, their breathing slow and synchronized. Nothing like the spent figures at the beginning of this story. Now, in their amber eyes, something different resides, not despair, but the vigilance of those who have returned from the edge. In the Wild Kingdom, hunger drives everything, but even the strongest predator must guard what lies behind, for the future of any dynasty rests with its youngest members. The dry season has not passed, but the Asilia pride remains battered, leaner, wiser. The dynasty holds because it learned to bend before it broke. And in Ruaha, as long as the river still flows, even if only its last drops trickle across sun-bleached stone, the struggle continues without pause. Not a war of the strong against the weak, but a war of life against forgetting, fought every hour, across every season, beneath skies that offer neither mercy nor reprieve. Thank you for journeying with WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless stories waiting to be told. Until the next adventure, stay wild, stay curious. If you have not yet subscribed to WildVerse, now is the moment. Every creature carries within it an extraordinary story, and we will continue to bring them to light. She has not eaten in 4 days. Ribs press sharp ridges beneath her faded, tawny coat. Her eyes, twin ambers, cold and unblinking, never leave the target ahead. Her cubs wait in distant scrub, each one barely 3 months old. Today she must bring back food, or they will not survive the week. "40 yards ahead, a massive dark shape tears at the dry grass. Not an antelope, not a zebra. It is a Cape buffalo, widely regarded as the most dangerous prey animal on the African continent. Each adult Cape buffalo tips the scales at close to 2,000 pounds. Horns curved like forged steel scythes carry enough force to hurl a full-grown lion skyward. She has chosen her target with care, but this time, the chosen prey can kill the hunter. "130 130 feet. Too far. A lioness must close within 100 feet before she strikes. Beyond that distance, the game is lost before it starts." "115 115 feet. The wind shifts. Dry grass mingles with the scent of buffalo dung. If the breeze reverses, her scent will betray everything. 100 feet. She freezes in place. 2 other lionesses, flanking from opposite sides, tighten the closing noose. Wing formation, a coordinated tactic honed across thousands of hunts. One second of stillness. Then she launches. "50 miles per hour peak velocity, sustained for only a few explosive seconds before her muscles begin to burn. Dust erupts in blinding clouds. The herd detonates into panic. Hooves pound the hardpan like rolling thunder. But the lead bull does not flee. He pivots on massive hooves, horns leveled straight at the attacker, 1,800 pounds of bone and muscle charges headlong into the assault. The lioness swerves a half-beat too slow. A horn rakes along her flank. The impact alone could shatter bone. Seven of every 10 hunts end precisely this way. In failure, in hunger, in blood and wounds. The buffalo survives, the lioness may not. But on the African savanna, raw hunger is not the only enemy that awaits. From the east, a chorus of whooping calls slices through the twilight air. Not one voice. 6, 7, perhaps 8 low-slung shadowy figures advance with deliberate purpose. Spotted hyenas. Their massive jaws generate a crushing bite force of 1,100 psi, hundreds of pounds stronger than any lion's bite. They pulverize bones that lions cannot crack and must abandon. This is no fleeting skirmish over a single carcass. This is a war that has raged for 2 million years across the grasslands of Africa, and neither side has ever claimed absolute victory. Spotted hyenas live in tightly organized matriarchal societies. Females dominate males in every aspect of clan hierarchy, territory, and feeding order. They communicate through more than 11 distinct vocalizations, ranging from deep, guttural moans to shrill, piercing laughter that echoes for miles across the open plains. The lioness throws back her head and roars. The sound carries 5 miles across the open plain, shaking the air like a concussive blast. The hyena pack halts, retreats a few cautious steps. But they do not leave, they simply wait. The lioness must try again. This time she selects different prey, a herd of wildebeest drifting along the western ridge. Smaller than Cape buffalo, considerably faster, 50 miles per hour matching a lion stride for stride, but without the curved steel horns and the dangerous instinct to turn and fight. She closes the distance. The wing formation draws tighter. One young wildebeest drifts half a beat behind the rest of the herd, slower by a fraction. A fatal mistake. In under 3 seconds, the lioness explodes forward, seizes the shoulder of her prey with outstretched claws, and drags it to the ground. Dust billows skyward, obscuring everything. When it settles, the struggle is over. But on the savanna, victory is never complete. The whooping calls return. The hyenas circle back, more of them now. They have not come to fight. They have come to steal. The lioness eats with desperate haste, tearing flesh in ragged strips. Her eyes never leave the surrounding darkness where luminous green eyes watch intently, counting every mouthful that disappears. That is the iron law of the savanna. A kill does not guarantee a meal. Defending the prize against all comers, that is true survival. On the open plains of East Africa, raw muscle and iron patience alone determine who lives and who perishes before nightfall. The lioness has been shaped across millions of years of natural selection into the most refined terrestrial hunting machine on Earth, and even she fails 7 times out of 10. But terrestrial power, no matter how refined or how lethal, has its limits. There exist kingdoms on this planet where no roar can reach and no claw can threaten, where the hunter needs no muscle but something deeper, something far more ancient. "63 million square miles of surface, 25,000 islands scattered across the blue, one ocean, a realm where even a killing machine, 400 million years in the making, must flee from a mind sharper than its own. If, on the savanna, power belongs to the strongest body, then beneath the ocean, power belongs to the most intelligent mind. This is the story of the wild Pacific. The Pacific Ocean, the single largest body of water on Earth, stretches from the frozen Arctic to the windswept Antarctic, covering nearly 1/3 of the planet's entire surface. But not all waters are alike. Some regions are liquid desert devoid of life, devoid of sound, devoid of hope. Others erupt with biological force that defies easy explanation. The coast of Japan is one of the most biologically dynamic places on the planet. From the south, the Kuroshio Current carries warm tropical water along the archipelago with staggering speed and heat temperatures between 68 and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. From the north, the frigid, mineral-rich Oyashio Current descends from the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk, carrying water at a mere 37 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Where these two great currents collide, something wondrous occurs. Warm water clashes violently against cold. Nutrients, locked in the deep, are thrust upward toward the sunlit surface. Algae bloom in vast emerald clouds. Plankton populations explode by the billions. And from this single oceanographic collision, the entire food chain ignites. The Kuroshio-Oyashio Convergence Zone, where biological productivity runs 2 to 5 times higher than surrounding waters, stands as one of Earth's greatest oceanographic phenomena. Beneath this seemingly placid surface, each layer of water forms its own kingdom. Each species occupies a precise role in the hierarchy, and the ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most cunning. But to understand who truly commands the apex of the ocean's hierarchy, one must first descend to the lowest tier, where the smallest creatures guard the greatest secrets. Begin at the coral reefs of Okinawa, a vast submerged city beneath the warm turquoise waters of southern Japan. Here, a creature smaller than a human finger holds the key to one of the most spectacular transformations in the entire natural world. Seen from above, a living coral reef resembles a sprawling metropolis, complete with wide boulevards, narrow alleyways, towering hard coral edifices, and fragile sea fan gardens swaying gently in the current. Okinawa harbors roughly 400 coral species, a level of diversity that ranks among the highest anywhere on Earth. The Sekisei Lagoon, stretching between Iriomote and Ishigaki, is the largest coral reef system in all of Japan. Though coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they shelter more than 1/4 of all known marine species. 1% of the area, yet 1/4 of all ocean life. No structure built by human hands has ever achieved such an arresting ratio. Every square inch of living reef is a fiercely contested territorial battleground among shrimp, crabs, bristleworms, snails, and hundreds of small fish species, all crammed into spaces smaller than a wardrobe. And amid this densely populated coral metropolis, one tiny resident glides effortlessly through the lethal tentacles of a sea anemone entirely unharmed. The clownfish, barely 4.5 inches long. Its bright orange and white colors blaze so vividly they border on deliberate provocation. Any other creature foolish enough to brush against an anemone's tentacles suffers instant and devastating paralysis. Thousands of stinging cells called nematocysts fire venom faster than a bullet. Yet the clownfish swims through them as though passing through its own front door. Because that is precisely what it is. A specialized glycoprotein mucus layer coats the clownfish's entire body, functioning as an invisible chemical shield, preventing the nematocysts from recognizing it as a viable target. Groundbreaking research from the Okinawa Institute of Science in 2025 revealed that the key mechanism lies in extremely low sialic acid levels within the mucus, rendering the clownfish invisible to the venom. In return, the clownfish diligently removes parasites and dead tissue from the anemone's tentacles, earning its shelter through constant service. Studies show that the presence of a clownfish accelerates anemone growth by 3 times thanks to constant fin movement, improving oxygen flow around the host. A flawless symbiotic pact written in the language of chemistry, requiring no words and no negotiation. But the clownfish's most stunning secret does not reside in its mucus coating. It resides in its sex. Each clownfish community follows a rigid social hierarchy. A single female, the largest individual, rules. One breeding male ranks directly beneath her. The remaining fish are non-breeding males, lined up in strict hierarchical order. Every single clownfish is born male, no exceptions. When the dominant female dies, the largest male does not seek a new mate. Testosterone levels in its body plummet. Estrogen surges through its bloodstream. Testicular tissue undergoes a complete metamorphosis into functional ovarian tissue. Within weeks, the male becomes a fully reproductive female, permanently and irreversibly. Science calls this protandrous hermaphroditism, a clinical term that barely captures the grandeur of one of nature's most spectacular biological metamorphoses. The next male in the hierarchy automatically ascends to breeding status. The cycle continues. No conflict, no competition, only biochemical precision as exact as clockwork. A creature smaller than a finger, living in the deadly embrace of a killer, possesses the extraordinary ability to rewrite its own biological design. In the ocean, survival does not belong to the largest or the fastest. Sometimes it belongs to the creature willing to transform its very essence, its biology, its identity when circumstances demand nothing less. The clownfish understood this truth long before Darwin ever wrote his first line. But the lowest tier of the ocean is not safe. Nowhere in the ocean is ever safe. Beyond the sheltering reef, where coral gives way to open water, life wears an entirely different face. Here, a reptile of immense antiquity carries on its armored back an instinct 200 million years old. A beach in southern Japan. Deep darkness. A massive dark form crawls slowly and heavily from the surf. Every step across the sand demands tremendous effort. A body engineered to glide through water now battles gravity on land. The loggerhead sea turtle, Caretta, a reptile that has navigated these waters since the age of dinosaurs. Tonight, this female returns to the very beach where she hatched perhaps 40 years ago, perhaps longer. Yakushima Island, Japan's largest and most vital loggerhead nesting ground, receives between 2,000 and 7,000 nests each breeding season. Every nesting season, volunteers stand guard through the night, protecting each egg from predators and artificial light. The mother excavates her nest slowly with both hind flippers like two patient spoons. She lays her eggs, covers them with sand, erases her tracks, and returns to the sea without looking back. From that precise moment, the fate of every buried egg depends on a single variable temperature. "45 to 70 days later, the sand begins to stir with movement from below. Dozens of hatchlings, each no larger than a human palm, claw their way upward and emerge from the nest. A single overriding instinct drives every hatchling forward, race toward the reflected shimmer of moonlight on the ocean surface. They scramble toward the water, if one can call the desperate flailing of a tiny, fragile body across open sand scrambling. But between nest and sea stretches a miniature and merciless desert filled with enemies. Seabirds dive from above. Ghost crabs lurk in the moonlit shadows. The distance from nest to water may be only 100 feet, but for a hatchling weighing less than an ounce, those 100 feet become a marathon between life and death. Of every 1,000 hatchlings that claw their way to the surface, perhaps only one will survive long enough to reach adulthood. The fortunate few will embark on one of nature's epic migrations, crossing the entire Pacific on a round-trip journey of 7,500 miles to the distant shores of Baja California. That is the law of the ocean. But this cycle faces a growing threat, and the greatest danger comes not from birds or crabs. It comes from temperature. Sea turtles determine sex through incubation temperature. Warmer sands produce females, cooler sands produce males. The pivotal threshold sits at roughly 84 degrees Fahrenheit. If temperatures rise by just a few degrees, entire generations will skew more than 90% female. A species will lose its capacity to reproduce normally. The equation is terrifying precisely because it is so simple. But beneath the sunlit coral canopy, deeper still, where light begins to fade and colors drain away, something watches, not with curiosity, with hunger. And even the most finely tuned predator harbors a fear of its own. That fear will surface, but not yet. A single dorsal fin slices the waterline, slow, steady, like a blade drawn deliberately across silk. "20 feet long, over 2 tons, more than 50 triangular teeth stacked in rotating rows when one falls. Another slides forward to replace it. A conveyor belt of weaponry that never stops." The great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, is a creature that 400 million years of relentless evolution have sculpted and refined into a near-perfect killing instrument. "400 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared, before trees had even colonized the barren land, the ancestors of modern sharks already prowled the dark primordial oceans. And while everything around them changed, continents collided and drifted apart, ice ages came and went, 5 catastrophic mass extinctions erased the vast majority of life sharks endured. The great white itself is only about 16 million years old, but its lineage is the legacy of 400 million years of natural selection. Its body is engineered with a precision no human designer could improve. The jaw holds roughly 300 teeth in total, with 50 always active in the front row, triangular, scalpel sharp. Over the course of a lifetime, a single great white may cycle through thousands upon thousands of teeth. But what makes this species truly fearsome extends far beyond weaponry alone. The great white is endothermic warm-blooded, an exceedingly rare trait among fish. A complex network of blood vessels called the rete mirabile keeps its body warmer than the surrounding water. Muscles fire harder and with greater endurance. Reflexes sharpen to a predatory edge. The brain processes sensory information faster than any cold-blooded rival. In the frigid waters surrounding Hokkaido, where winter temperatures routinely drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the great white's body remains an engine heated and sustained from within. The electroreceptor system on its snout, called the ampullae of Lorenzini, detects electric fields as faint as 5 billionths of a volt per centimeter, sensitive enough to read the heartbeat of prey buried beneath sand. But the most formidable weapon in the great white's arsenal is not the sensor array. It is the tactic. The breach, the single most spectacular hunting technique in the entire ocean. The shark descends deep beneath its unsuspecting prey, usually a seal swimming at the surface. Then it looks up. The prey appears as a dark silhouette against a bright sky. From below, the seal is nothing but a shadow on shimmering water, a perfect target, nowhere to hide. Then the shark accelerates vertically 25 miles per hour. 2 tons of muscle launch upward like a living torpedo. The seal never sees the shadow rising beneath it, never has time to react. Jaws slam shut. Gravity seizes both bodies and pulls them back into the deep. Not every breach succeeds, but when one does, no prey gets a second chance. A great white's natural lifespan can exceed 70 years, spanning longer than most chapters of recorded human history. Recent scientific studies reveal that great whites possess distinct individual personalities, unexpectedly complex social behaviors, and even engage in social foraging, learning the location of productive feeding grounds from one another. If an engineer were tasked with designing the perfect underwater killing machine, optimal hydrodynamics, a multi-layered sensor suite, self-replacing weaponry, the final product would look exactly like a great white shark. But not every ocean predator chooses to single out one target at a time. In the warm Pacific waters, another apex patrol emerges broad-headed, strong-jawed, teeth curved and serrated like the blades of a saw. The tiger shark. 16 feet of raw power and length. The predator with the widest dietary menu in the entire shark world. Fish, seabirds, sea turtles, stingrays, floating carrion, even debris discarded by human hands have all been found inside their stomachs. Not a picky eater, the ocean's supreme scavenger and apex enforcer. The tiger shark's constant presence creates a pervasive landscape of fear, preventing sea turtles and mugongs from overgrazing vulnerable seagrass beds, thereby shielding entire coastal ecosystems. When tiger sharks vanish from a region, seagrass meadows collapse in their wake, an invisible link in the chain that few observers ever notice. But even a predator refined across 400 million years harbors something to fear. And that something does not dwell in the midwater. It lives far deeper then, rises to the surface. "650 feet below the shimmering waterline, the mesopelagic zone, light dims like the last embers of a dying fire. 1,600 feet darkness begins swallowing everything whole. "3,280 feet, the abyssal zone. Light vanishes completely, as though it never existed. Temperature hovers near freezing. Pressure builds to levels that would crush a conventional submarine like tinfoil. The Japan Trench does not stop at 3,000 feet. It keeps descending 6,000, 9,000, 16,000 to over 26,000 feet, just off the coast of Honshu. A fracture in the Earth's crust, so deep that if Mount Fuji were placed inside, its summit would still rest thousands of feet beneath the surface. Not far away lies the Mariana Trench, nearly 36,000 feet at the Challenger Deep, the deepest point on the planet. At these depths, darkness is not merely the absence of light. It is a physical presence, dense, heavy, absolute. No eye can see. No ear can hear in the conventional sense. Yet, the abyss is far from empty. It has a master. And that master does not use eyes to see or ears to hear. It uses sound, but a kind of sound no other creature on Earth can produce. "236 decibels, the loudest sound generated by any living organism on the face of this planet. From the abyss rises a single click, then another, then a continuous volley of percussive bursts. Each click penetrates the water column like living sonar, mapping the invisible world ahead. Longer than a city bus, heavier than 45 tons, the head alone occupies a full 1/3 of the body's total length, the largest toothed animal that has ever existed on this planet. The sperm whale, Physeter macrocephalus, the undisputed sovereign of the deep abyss. Inside that cavernous head sits the spermaceti organ, a biological reservoir holding tons of waxy oil unique among all living creatures. Its precise function remains a subject of vigorous scientific debate. But one thing researchers know with certainty, it is the source of the most powerful sound ever produced by a living creature. The sperm whale interprets returning echoes through specialized fat deposits in its lower jaw, constructing an intricate three-dimensional map of a world shrouded in total and permanent darkness. No eyes needed. It sees through sound alone. And the sperm whale's quarry at these crushing depths is the elusive giant squid. The clash between sperm whale and giant squid remains one of nature's greatest and most enduring unsolved mysteries. No camera has ever captured the encounter. No light reaches those depths. No human has ever witnessed it. Only evidence remains circular scars, the unmistakable imprint of sucker discs, etched deep into whale skin like medals earned in battle. Some scars span several inches across, proof that the adversary is no small opponent. Every single adult sperm whale bears these battle scars somewhere on its body. No exceptions. At invisible depths, titanic battles unfold in absolute and total silence. After a single dive, the recorded maximum reaches 7,380 feet. A sperm whale may rest at the surface for hours afterward, breathing deeply, recovering its depleted oxygen stores, and gazing at the open sky through eyes that seem impossibly small for such an immense body. Their social lives prove equally compelling and complex. Females and calves form tight-knit pods that travel together through warmer tropical waters. They defend one another with coordinated formations, nurse each other's young, and communicate through intricate click sequences that scientists have come to call codas. In 2024, groundbreaking research from MIT and Project CETI revealed that codas possess combinatorial structure resembling a phonetic alphabet with the potential to generate limitless combinations of meaning. A communication system bearing structural properties that are strikingly close to those of human language. Adult males follow a profoundly different path. They leave the safety of the pod, swimming alone into the frigid polar waters of the far north, solitary, enormous, and utterly silent. The sperm whale commands formidable physical power, unlike any other toothed predator, but it also carries a burden of profound solitude. And in the ocean, solitude is always a vulnerability. Because true dominion in the ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most intelligent, and the most intelligent never hunts alone. If the ocean has left you speechless, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have not yet subscribed, now is the perfect time. But before the true ruler appears, one more species deserves its story, a predator that turned its bizarre anatomy into a flawless weapon. In the warm western Pacific, where coral reefs slope into submerged ridges and drop-offs, a strange silhouette emerges from the blue. A shark's body, but the head flares outward on both sides like a primitive stone hammer. The hammerhead shark family, Sphinidae, the dramatically widened head, known as the cephalofoil, may appear grotesque to human eyes, but beneath the ocean's surface, it functions as a complete and devastatingly efficient hunting system. Eyes positioned at each tip grant a vastly expanded field of vision. The head's surface bristles with hundreds of electroreceptors, the ampullae of Lorenzini. These organs detect faint electrical impulses from muscles, nerve fibers, and the heartbeat of living prey. Beneath fine sand, a stingray lies nearly motionless, its flattened body dusted with pale sediment, skin tone blending with the surrounding seabed, rendering it virtually invisible. But the hammerhead does not hunt by sight alone. Gliding low over the sand, the wide head sweeps gently from side to side like a living metal detector. A stingray can conceal its shape. It cannot conceal its heartbeat. At Yonaguni Island, the westernmost inhabited point of the entire Japanese archipelago, hammerhead sharks congregate in vast schools of 50 to over 200 individuals around underwater cleaning stations. From a distance, the spectacle resembles a phantom squadron drifting through the ocean. But the hammerhead's tragedy lies in a cruel and bitter irony. A creature exquisitely designed to read heartbeats, buried beneath sand, cannot sense the single greatest threat now stalking it. Fishing nets carry no heartbeat for the sensors to detect. Longline hooks emit no electrical pulse to trigger alarm. The scalloped hammerhead critically endangered, according to the IUCN Red List. Populations have plummeted by more than 80% in recent decades. When they vanish, the ocean loses its silent and irreplaceable sentinel. And the ocean's most intelligent and most feared predator, the one that makes every other creature in the sea tremble, draws closer now. A dorsal fin, nearly 6 feet tall, cleaves the ocean surface with surgical precision. Then another fin appears. Then 5. Then 10. They move in absolute unison, no fin out of rhythm, no shadow falling behind. The orca, or Chinese orca. Most people call them killer whales. But that name ranks among the greatest misnomers in the history of biology. Orcas are not whales at all. They belong to the family Delphinidae, the oceanic dolphins. They are the largest dolphins on the planet. Adult males can reach 32 feet in length, weigh up to an imposing 8 tons, and achieve explosive burst speeds of 34.5 miles per hour, outpacing any shark species alive. But neither raw size nor explosive speed is what makes every creature in the ocean fear the orca above all others. It is the brain. The orca brain ranks among the most complex in the animal kingdom. Its insular cortex, governing emotion and social awareness, more elaborate than that of humans. Orcas do not merely hunt, they strategize. In the cold Norwegian fjords, orcas hunt Atlantic herring using a coordinated technique known as carousel feeding. The entire pod encircles the herring school, compressing thousands of fish into a single tight bait ball. Exhaled bubbles form an invisible curtain wall. Then each orca rolls gracefully and strikes the bait ball with a devastating tail fluke. Every blow precisely aimed, every blow deliberate. Each orca fulfills a designated role. In Antarctic waters, the strategy transforms entirely. Wave washing, perfectly synchronized swimming that generates powerful artificial waves, sweeping unsuspecting seals clean off their ice floes. A tactic demanding flawless coordination among 4 or 5 individuals swimming in tight formation. And this behavior is not innate. It is taught, practiced, and perfected over years. Mothers teach their calves through patient demonstration. Grandmothers teach their grandcalves. Each pod, the fundamental orca family unit, possesses its own hunting techniques, its own vocal dialect, its own dietary traditions. Scientists call this culture, a term once reserved exclusively for humans. In the northwestern Pacific Basin, at least 2 to 3 distinct orca ecotypes coexist. Residents specializing in salmon and other fish, transients specializing in hunting marine mammals, and the lesser-studied offshore population. Near Raosu, off eastern Hokkaido, orcas have been documented hunting stellar sea lions in direct attacks. But the moment that rewrote every rule in the ocean occurred elsewhere off the coast of South Africa. Two orcas, nicknamed Port and Starboard because their dorsal fins list in opposite directions, have single-handedly redrawn the ocean's entire map of power. They hunt great white sharks. Not by accident, not in self-defense, with a single purpose: to harvest the liver. Great white shark liver is rich in squalane, a concentrated energy source. Port and Starboard dissect their shark prey with surgical precision, flipping the great white belly up to trigger a state of tonic immobility, then extracting the nutrient-dense liver intact. The rest of the carcass is discarded. In 2023, Starboard accomplished something never before documented, killing a juvenile great white alone, completely solo, without Port. When orcas appear in a stretch of ocean, great white sharks vanish, not for hours, not for days, but for months. Research from the Farallon Institute of Oceanography and data from Dr. Alison Towner in South Africa confirm the same conclusion. "400 million years of painstaking evolution, a body perfected down to each serrated tooth, a sensory system that surpasses all modern human technology, and every advantage must yield before a few million years of brain development." That is the answer to the question posed at the beginning of this film. The ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most intelligent, and the most intelligent never hunts alone. On the savanna, a lioness must hunt in a pride to prevail. Beneath the ocean, the orca has elevated that principle to a higher plane, not mere pack strength, but collective intelligence. But even the most intelligent remains fragile. Orcas defeat every rival the ocean can offer, but orcas cannot defeat the rising temperatures and acidification of a rapidly changing ocean. Intelligence cannot replace vanishing plankton. Culture cannot regenerate dying coral. The most complex brain in the entire ocean still depends upon a vast, interconnected web of life that it did not weave and cannot repair. The larger question is not who is strongest or smartest. The question is, does the ocean still have room for all of them? There is one creature in the ocean whose every appearance seems to slow time itself. "40 to 50 feet in length, pectoral fins spanning 1/3 of its body, the longest of any whale species. When it launches from the water, dozens of tons soaring skyward before crashing back in a white column of spray. No one knows with certainty why. The humpback whale, Megaptera novaeangliae. The scientific name translates roughly to big-winged creature from New England, a name lacking in geographic precision but brimming with accidental poetry. Each year, humpback whales migrate from the waters off Alaska and Russia to Japan's Ogasawara Islands, a one-way journey of 5,000 miles. one of the longest sustained migrations undertaken by any mammal species on Earth. In northern feeding grounds, they coordinate hunts through bubble net feeding. A group dives beneath a school of fish, exhaling bubbles in a spiraling ring to form an invisible net. Fish are corralled inside the bubble column. Then the entire group surges upward in unison. Mouths agape, thousands of gallons of water streaming through baleen plates, trapping the catch. Bubble net feeding is not instinct. It is a behavior that is learned passed from one generation to the next. Not all humpback populations know this technique. Only those with the tradition can execute it. But the humpback whale's most wondrous gift lies not in its mouth, it lies in its voice. Males sing. Each song stretches across 20 minutes or more, then repeats cycling for hours without pause. Every composition weaves together a complex sequence: low moans, high-pitched shrieks, percussive rhythms, and whistled phrases. Arranged into thematic structures with refrains, variations, and codas, and the songs evolve. Each breeding season, new phrases are woven into the composition. Songs spread from one population to another across vast distances, propagating west to east across the Pacific Basin, like a cultural trend traveling through an entire ocean. Scientists call this the song revolution, when an entire old song is replaced by a completely new melody originating from a neighboring population. A form of cultural transmission and creative renewal that was previously documented only in human societies. But the humpback whale's most inspiring story is not one of song. It is a story of resurrection against overwhelming odds. Roughly 10,000 individuals survived the industrial whaling era. Today, more than 80,000. Several populations have been removed from the endangered species list. Proof that when humanity steps back, nature can restore itself. But not every species has been so fortunate. Okinawa's corals, 400 species, among the most diverse on Earth, are dying. Bleaching events in 2016, 2017, 2022, and 2024 killed up to 70% of coral in some regions. When coral dies, the clownfish loses its home. Without anemones, without glycoprotein, no metamorphosis can offer salvation. Studies show clownfish mortality reaches 94 to 100% when their host anemones bleach. When coral reefs degrade, sea turtles lose nesting grounds, plankton declines, and small fish disappear. At least 11 million tons of plastic waste enter the oceans every year. Turtles swallow drifting plastic bags, mistaking them for jellyfish. Microplastics climb every rung of the food chain, from plankton to fish to sharks to orcas. "38% of all shark and ray species face the threat of extinction. The scalloped hammerhead, critically endangered, the whale shark endangered, the ocean sunfish vulnerable. A domino effect. Each broken link weakens the next. The whale shark, the single largest fish species on the planet, glides through the warm Pacific with unhurried grace, 60 feet in length, 40 tons of living weight. A mouth as wide as a garage door, yet it feeds exclusively on plankton and tiny organisms. A gentle filter feeder, the largest fish on Earth and paradoxically the most gentle. Each individual carries a unique constellation of white spots as distinctive as a human fingerprint. The Wildbook Conservation Program has identified more than 12,000 individual whale sharks through these natural markings. But the global population has declined by more than 50% in 75 years. The ocean's most peaceful inhabitant is also vanishing the fastest. Yet amid all this profound loss, hope endures and even flourishes. Humpback whales have rebounded from 10,000 battered survivors to more than 80,000. Japan has expanded its network of marine protected areas. Okinawa is replanting coral using sexual reproduction techniques. The Yakushima community guards turtle nesting beaches through the night. The ocean is sending signals. The question is whether humanity will listen. On the savanna, the lioness will keep hunting because instinct will not let her stop. Beneath the ocean, orcas will keep hunting because inherited intelligence will not let them forget. But the future rests neither on a lion's instinct nor on an orca's intellect. It rests on the conscious choices of the only species on this planet that truly understands what it stands to lose. In the deep trenches of the Pacific, the humpback whale's song still resonates. On the distant savanna, the lion's roar still rumbles. The only question is, will anyone still be listening? Thank you for joining WildVerse on this journey. If this story moved, you share it. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next expedition.